minus 20 seconds. 15 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Good morning. Happy Thursday. There you are. Here I am. It's 7:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We got a whole lot going on. We got Bob and Dottie and Amy and Libby. I think Amy has to show up because she lives with me. But she's so sweet to do that. Just reading all your comments. Man, everybody's fired up today. It's good to see you. I need a haircut, so I'm excited today to get a haircut today. That's my big deal. This little piece right here is starting to poof out. So I gotta tell you what, being a public figure, there is like some things like I said something the other day. I don't remember what it was, and after I got off, Libby was like, "Man, you sounded like such a girl," and I'm like, "This is what happens. This is what happens when you're on TV all the time. It's like you just look at yourself. Like I'm looking at myself right now, going, meh." you know? So anyway, it's been a long week, from plumbing issues to travel to yard work to the best of all. Yesterday I hurt myself. Yeah, I hurt my hip yesterday. Oh, how, you might ask? I'm glad you asked. So I'm sitting in a chair during a meeting. That's exactly it. That's the whole story. I sat in a chair for an hour and a half phone call. I got up and I couldn't walk the rest of the day. Like, now I'm officially old. I know, I get it. You don't even have to say it. It's just one of those things where it feels like my hip got smashed with a baseball bat. Where I'm like, what is happening? This has been a week of lots of different stuff. So, Libby, why do you show up? Well, Libby, because you're the best event coordinator anybody could ask for. That's why you show up. And someday, Jesus will welcome you into heaven, and it will all be worth it. Because I know that working with me every day probably can't be. So anyway, yes, Amy, I do sound like your grandmother. All right, good morning. Good to see you guys all. I needed a little wake up today. Yeah, we've been busy around here, and lots going on. But it's good to see you all. It truly is. So today I wanted to talk about. I was cutting the grass the other day, and a friend of mine from Louisiana, probably one of the best inspirational speakers in the Catholic Church, my buddy by the name of Mike Patan, had given me a shirt years ago, and he used to give a talk about inclusion. And so right on the front of the shirt, it says in big bold letters, it says, "Include me." And he has his own story about a relationship issue with his wife, girlfriend then wife, but I had this shirt on, and I just thought, it's so appropriate where we are right now. That are we really including everybody into the conversation? Are we really helping people be part of a solution? And then I took it one step further last night that I decided to talk politics with my children at the dinner table. Now, I can tell you that as all political conversations in this day and age, it didn't start so well to start. It was a pretty rough beginning. But when it changed was when we were able to include the other person's viewpoints into our own conversation. When we stopped talking about why we were defending our point and solely defending our point, and began to understand why the other person might feel the way that they do, it became a great conversation that as a father, I was kind of proud to have. It wasn't something that I've ever had with, it wasn't something I ever had with my dad. And so to talk about that, I was like, you know what? I think that there is something to this inclusion topic that we will talk about today. So I know you're probably sad to not talk about sower and the seed for one more day, but I think it's time to move on. But real quick about that, Millie and Carrie and Libby, everybody did an amazing job following up on our roles after Sunday's gospel. And that's really what we're supposed to do. Here is a faith in real life community, a faith in real life ministry that each and every one of us is supposed to take what we hear on Sunday and then live that Monday through Saturday. And so everybody did a great job following up on that as well. So where are we at with this inclusion topic? So let me ask you this question. When you get overwhelmed with a situation or a decision, you just have to answer one word if you want to answer and be part of the conversation. Are you somebody who gets quiet, or do you just talk endlessly? So you, like, when you're overwhelmed and the world's coming in around you, do you get quiet and go into a ball, or are you somebody who just wants to talk endlessly about it? So just go ahead and I'm just kind of just a impromptu survey. I'm just kind of curious. I think that I am somebody who gets quiet. Like, you will know if I'm mad at you, and I've talked about this before, but you will know if I'm mad at you because I just don't talk to you. Like, I'm not going to yell at you. I'm not going to get in your face. I get really quiet. And that's just my way of dealing with it. So I'm the guy who gets quiet. But what I don't do is include anybody else in trying to help me get out of it. So I'm somebody who just shuts everybody out. And when we get quiet or when we lash out, we're not looking for anybody to journey with us. We're just looking to either purge or go into our own little spot. So I'm going to say from this point going forward, we have to start including other people in everything that we're dealing with. For our generation, right now, we're probably dealing with some heavier stuff lately than probably since 2001. If you were in the financial industry in 2008, there was some stuff that went on in the business world that would have made that tough. But probably since September 11th, in 20 years, this is one of our heaviest and certainly most prolonged pieces of history where a lot's going on that affects us daily. We don't know what to make of it. We don't have to think about it. We get stuck thinking about it. We don't know whether we should make changes. We don't know whether we should move on or revert. And so the less people that we include, the more struggle that we're going to have. And so we just have to stop shutting people out. So if we think about it in our marriages or in our friendships, it's pretty silly to think of it that we have a marriage or a friendship and we get together and only one person is physically and mentally present. And when there's big decisions to be made or there's something that you're going through, this phrase of saying, include me, is as vital as anything else. Because there has to be two people in this partnership that are working together on whatever it is. Obviously, if it's somebody that you don't know that well and you don't want to include them, I get it. But at the same time, if it's somebody close to you, you have to include them. Good morning if you're just joining us on Coffee and Conversation. Peace be with you. We're talking about inclusion today in the sense of allowing people into our world when we're dealing with stuff. So I mentioned the political conversation I had with my kids last night. And here's what I learned from talking to them. And if Elise, you work with a lot of young people, and there's a lot of anger, there's a lot of distrust, there's a lot of confusion in our young people as to who is truly fighting for them in the world and who they can trust and what the media tells them they should trust and what TikTok videos tell them they should trust. And also seeing that the offices of the United States, whether any side is in charge, doesn't deserve the respect that it once did. And so that's a very confusing time for our young people. That's what they're feeling: anger, distrust, and confusion. And then if I take it to the adult side, and I may have mentioned this before, but right now I see more good, faith-filled people who are lost and have abandoned hope in many ways. Their entire life is driven by fear. So if you have these two people that exist in the same home, which I'm blessed that we don't, but we might have these feelings, but we talk about them. But if you have adults who are lost and feeling hopeless, and you have children who are confused and distrusting, this is a very toxic, my hands are down, but this is a very toxic melting pot that is waiting to explode. And no good is going to come out of it. So the question is how do we begin to include others? How do we begin to include each other in the conversation so that we can actually have progress and not just scream about our viewpoints or curl up into a ball and say, you don't understand, I don't want to tell you about it. And again, if our marriages work that way, they're not going to get that far. If our relationships work that way, they're just not going to work. There has to be a communication of inclusion in order for us to get through things that are bigger than we could ever imagine or process in our own brain. And in a very me society, it's become a big issue. So we have to think about how we're including other people into these conversations. And here's what Philippians chapter 2, verse 2 says. It says, complete my joy by being of the same mind, having the same love, being in full accord and of one mind. Right? So Christ isn't like, what Paul is telling us in his letter to the Philippians. He's not like, it's good if you have your beliefs and you kind of think about things one way. It doesn't say that you're all going to feel and think the same way. But what is the end goal? If our end goal is to live in peace and to live in harmony, there's probably a couple different ways to get there. But it doesn't happen without truth. It doesn't happen without love. And it doesn't happen without sharing the same goal as to why we want to get to that peace that we long for. So reading and thinking and including people in these stories, and I'm just kind of reading your comments as I'm talking, but, like Elise says, one of the best things I ever did was having a youth gathering just to share stories and listen. People don't feel safe expressing themselves anywhere because they feel they're immediately going to be attacked before they can even finish their sentence. I think we also need to look at how we ask to be included too. Yeah, it's like I told a friend of mine the other day, I said, I just want to be included in the solution, but I don't know who will include me. And so then frustration happens. And what does the Catechism say? Well, the Catechism says that the human person's, this is Catechism 1891, it says, the human person needs life in society in order to develop in accordance with his nature. Certain societies, such as the family and the